Okay, so now I am starting my presentation. Hello everyone. Hope you all are doing good in this lockdown. I hope everyone is fine in this pandemic situation. So in the series of ABCL, that is anybody can learn, I am going to take the third part of the machine learning, which is based on neural network. In this session, we will learn what is neural network, its different type, some interesting application, and the need for vectorization in neural network. It was This session was to be held on 21st of the May, but due to some technical issue, we have postponed it, and now today we are taking the session. So let's start our video first session. I hope everybody is can hear me. Please write in the chat section. Am I audible to all of you? Okay, fine. So now let's start our presentation webinar. So all of you can see this video. Please write in the chat box.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please, all of you, please mute your microphone. Use chat box for any communication. So you can see this video, right? This video has been created using VFX, no doubt in it, right? Vehicles can't pass through it without slowing down their speed or without having any accident like you are seeing in this video. But this is possible in future using self-driving car, as they can determine their speed by doing several functions and by applying algorithm for which they could avoid collision. A self-driving car is capable of sensing its environment and then navigating. What it means that it has many sensors in it which gives the input to the car, which they process it, then plan what to do and what not to do. Like there are many sensors such as camera, radar, lidar, sonar, GPS, IMU. They all take the data from the environment as input and convert it into digital form and then send it for programming. Okay, so for programming, the programming takes these values from the sensors and then they perform certain activities. They apply algorithms and they perform perform algorithm and plan according to what you have to do on the basis of the given input. The perception then gives the output and then send it to the planning part. The planning part plans what we have to do on the basis of output generated by the perception. The output that is given by the perceptions, the planning part takes it and then thinks what to do, whether we have to apply the brakes or rotate the car or apply to rotate the steering wheel, and if to rotate the steering wheel, with what angle we have to rotate that, if there is any car set in front of the car, then what we have to do then if to apply brakes or accelerate. That's all what a self-driving car does. So self-driving car works on the four processes, that is sensors for taking input from the environment, perceptions, that is performing certain algorithms and giving the output. Planning part plans what we have to do next, whether to move straight forward or to rotate or anything, and the control that controls the output of the vehicle, that is the steering wheel, brakes, etc. Okay, so going for the next present ppt, getting the nerves on the neural. You might be thinking why I have used this word, getting the nerves on the neural. Actually, you will see in the next part. So you can see that for the neural part, like human brains, neural network consists of a large number of related elements which try to mimic the neurons. Pattern of the working of the neurons. Like for different situations, we have to our brain gives different output, different reactions. Likewise, for different input, neural network gives different output. It just adapts to change to generate the best possible output. Like in this, you can see a picture of the cat. A picture of the cat is shown. What it does, the first part that neural network does is just convert the picture into a form of pixel. A pixel you can see as the value of the point of the each point of the picture. Next, it does see you can see that this is a color picture, means RGB form. So it will have, if this picture contains 64 cross 64 pixels, then total number of the pixels will be 64 cross 64 cross 3, because it consists of RGB. R separate 64 cross 64 pixel for R, 64 cross 64 for G, and 64 cross 64 for B part. So total, all in all, you can have a total of 64 cross 64 cross 3 datas, which are then sent for the processing from the input feature part. They all are sent, and then they are multiplied with their weight into the feature part to get the linear form of value, which is then given for the activation by a sigmoid function, a linear ReLU function, or tanh function to give the output. Output can be in the terms of 0 or 1, or in between 0 or 1 to give output. If the value is greater than 0.5, then the value will be positive. Otherwise, it will show 0. Likewise, this was for a simple picture for identifying a cat, or if the picture is a cat or not. What if we have multiple pictures like this? You can see that there are many pictures like that. Here it is a pedestrian, a car, motorcycle, or truck. Our human brain can easily understand that this picture belongs to a pedestrian, this one for a car, this one for a motorcycle, and this one for a truck. But how a machine can learn it? Machine can learn it by giving the inputs, by training it, by giving several pictures of pedestrian to show that it is a pedestrian, for multiple test training data for car, multiple training data for motorcycle, and multiple training data for trucks. But how it will give the output will be in the form of matrix. If the first picture is recognized as pedestrian, the first row of the matrix will be shown as 1, and the rest will be given as 0. This will show for the pedestrian. Similarly, for when the picture will be identified as car, the second row will be shown as 1, and the rest all rows will be given the value as 0, because they are not classified as the car. Similarly for motorcycle, and similarly for truck, the same process is happening all the time. Okay. So now a simple neuron in the brain versus a simple neural network. You can see this picture of a nerve, simple nerves, a single cell. It has dendrites, nucleus, axons. The dendrites that takes the input from the different nerves and take it, and then send it to the cell body, where it processes some part and then sends the information to the axons, from where it exits through the cell. Likewise, in the simple neuron, you can think x1, x2, x3 as the dendrites, which takes the input parameter, this orange circle, as the cell body where processing takes place. The processing can be a ReLU function, a linear function, a tanh function, or a sigmoid function, which performs certain algorithms and then gives the output. Next is the complex brain. For a more complex type of brain cells like this one, which I have shown as the human brain, how a command is sent from brain in different part of the body is of great interest. What happens here is that the input is sent from the brain to the nerves, which is then passed to the connecting nerves, which are connected with each other in order to reach the specified target of the body, like hands or the brain. Similarly, a complex neural network works as the same. It takes the input and is passed through the different layers of the hidden layers, and then is given out to give the output layer. Here, hidden layers are the layers which perform certain tasks in between them in order to reach their goal and simplify every step further. So these are the types of parts of neural network. Neural network consists of input layer, hidden layer, and output layer. What input layers are the features that we give as the input parameter, like x1, x2, x3, x4. There can be many features, up to 100 features or 1,000 features. That depends on the user. Then it is passed to the activation layer, where different activation units are there, like A1, A2, or you can have as many as activation unit as you want for simplifying to get the output. Then this theta is the weight given to each parameter, so that it should be multiplied with the input parameter to give the output, to give to the output. Here the subscript, the superscript is written 1, as it has been the weight is passed from the input layer to the first activation layer. The subscript 1 to 1 is for determining from which input layer to which activation unit it is going from. Here 1 to 1 means from x1 to a1. Similarly here, from it is going to a1 from x2 layer. Similarly here, from x3 layer it is going to the a2 layer. In this way, these weight are given. Similarly for the second layer, that is from a1 to output, second second activation layer is there, so it is given as 2. From 1 to 2, it is going from 1 to 2, that's why it's given 2. From a1 to h1, h is going, that's why it has been written a11, theta 11. From a2 to h is going, so it has been given as 1 to 2. In this way, these parts are defined, and here the total number of layers are defined as 2, as input layers are not considered as the layers, since they are given by the user only. So the number of layers are 2. Now, types of neural network. The first type of the neural network is perceptron. Perceptron, you can say as the simplest and the oldest type of neural network. They are the single layered neural network which consists of the input node, which is directly connected to the output node. Here, you can have just what you have to do here is just to multiply the input node parameter with its weight and sum it to get the output. And one more thing is there, is given the biasing. Biasing is something that is added to the neural network to give the best model to fit in the data for a given input, to give the best fitting output. What happens here is that it is then used, it is then activated by using an activation function in which the biasing is summed with the input node and its weight. So what happens is that it directly gives the output. The second, the most important, the convolutional neural network. CNN is the most widely used and gives the highest accuracy of the output data. It is mostly using an image classifying an image, object detection, video processing, natural language processing, and many more. It is basically what we has been inspired is from the visualization of the humans, that how can we determine if the person that we are viewing is our relative or not. It is basically what happens that each input image is converted into binary, into an array of pixels, which are passed through the layers of filter, and which is follow the simple functions like performing ReLU functions and then pooling. So how it is done, let's see. First of all, what happens here, let's see. Okay, so this is, you can see this picture, right? This picture, you can say that it is identifying an image, or in Facebook or anywhere Instagram, if you post your picture with someone else, they try to give suggestions to you, if whether this person is, you are saying you have clicked picture, is your relative or not, or you have any suggestions for tagging some person. How it is done is basically a convolutional CNN process. What happens that when we take a snapshot of a picture, it takes the face of the picture, which can be, you can have it in forms of 64 cross 64 pixels or 124 128 cross 128 pixels or 24 cross 24 pixels. That depends on the size of the picture. What happens next is that it is then sent for convolution. Convolution is basically what we add a feature matrix to the pixel value to get a specified value. We just can use break down the picture in the 5 cross 5 or 10 cross 10 filters to get the spatial feature mapped output, like this, like you can see in this uh, one, this one that video has been played. In this, what is happening that a feature which is a matrix of 101 0 1 0 and 101 is applied to the given set of the pixel, and it is then applied to get a new function here which has the value of 434 243 or 234. Next, what happens is that after getting this value convolved features, we then apply ReLU function. ReLU function is used if there is any negative term in the array of the pixels. It is then just converted into 0. Why it is done? It is done to increase the non-linearity, as most of the real life problems don't consider the negative terms and are generally more non-linear one. So this after applying ReLU function, all the negative terms gets converted to 0 and the positive terms remain as it is. Then what happens is we pull all the new feature that has been developed because of the convolution and then the ReLU function. Like you can see in this picture below, a single depth slice has been given. If like this one, the first part, the orange one, was another feature map that has been obtained. The green one that has been obtained from different function, applying ReLU function, third one and fourth one. They are all clubbed together and then are used to find the pooling value. Pooling, we can have three types of pooling: max pooling, sum pooling, and average pooling. Here it is used the max pooling. What happens in this is that the maximum value of this feature map value just get added for the next function. From this one, the green part, the 8 was the highest one. That's why it has been given at the 3 was the highest in the yellow part. That's why 3 has been used. The 4 was the maximum. That's why 4 was used. Similarly, for some part, all the values of this array was summed and then had been kept for the next part. Like here for the orange part, it can be used 13. For this, the green part can be used as 21. For this one, a separate value, or any other, or for the same for the average part. What happens that after doing this, the same convolution function is applied until and unless we get a single long array of the value to get the value of function. Like in the cat picture, you have seen that there was a single long array of the value. In that way only, we just apply CNN to get a single long array of the value of all the features of picture, and then we just perform the simple logistic regression classification for identifying any image. Okay, so in the starting, I just told about the self-driving car. What happens in that? There were many sensors like GPS, IMU, radar, lidar, sonar, camera. So what happens that in the starting, GPS and IMU are used. For GPS, it takes the value from the GPS to get the information about the surrounding. When and then so lidar are used for light detection and ranging are used to get the exact details of the obstacle, that is if there is a building or a person is standing or any car is there, that is taken from the lidar, and then it is added in the GPS to get a internal map. They just try to create an internal map, and they try to see what is the optimum minimum path through which they can go, or through which they can travel so that they could found the less traffic or less dense area. But since GPS location is sent from the satellite, there is a delay in the getting the value due to the changing atmosphere or reflection from the buildings, or because of the train, anything can happen. So there can be an error of many meters from the actual one. To compensate this, IMU, inertial measurement unit, also known as inertial navigation unit, is used. They just try to compensate this error and to try to get the maximum accurate value. Next, what the camera does, that just they try to take the snapshot of the front part and the back part to see what are the objects there there are in the, or at or at or at what distance they have to rotate or they have to turn around, and the distance between the car and the object is measured using the sonar, and the speed that the different cars or the pedestrian is having is measured using radar. So in this way, the working of the self-driving car is happens. So next, recursive recurrent neural network, RNN. RNN is generally used for modeling sequence of data such as time series or natural language. Why this is happening? Because it happens the inflow of the data from input node to the output node just happens in a single line, and they perform the same task every time for the same sequence with output in the subsequent stages. That's why they are called as recurrent. What happens here is that when the input is sent to the, they just try to follow a single path. Like I will show you how they just go. They just go from here, then they just go from to a single input layer, and then they go from single one. They don't just go for every path at the same time. For every path they just go to a different one. Like for the second time they will go from here to here, then here they will go for the second one, and they will give different outputs, and all the outputs are just taken there, and then they are summed together and then found the average value. They are basically used in recognizing the speech values, or text to speech, or speech to text, or change in the translation of the one language to the another language. Okay, so next part. So some applications where neural networks are used. Home features, like when you are buying a home for a minimum cost, what you see is the price. How you see the price is that you just go and compare different plots and homes for the best homes for an optimum cost, and this is done using the standard neural network. The ad or the user info. Whenever you watch any online videos, you just come across some online advertisement. Why this happens, that is when you click on some ad, or you just search for something, they just take that data, they save it, and then they use for future to show that to show relevant date advertisement. And these two, the first two, just come for the standard neural network. These two are the examples of a standard neural network. The third one, that is image or video processing. What they does is that they take the input of the image and the video, and they try to find identify object, persons, or any background for the photo tagging or anything else comes under CNN. The third and the fourth part, that is audio, that is speech to text or text to a speech transcription, or change in the language, that is translation of one language to another, from English to Chinese, English to Hindi, Hindi to English, Hindi to Bengali, or Hindi to Telugu or Tamil. It just happens for using these two are done using RNN. In what they does is that they repeatedly just check for the same output using different path, and they get whatever they get, they just try to give the average of all these. The last one, that is the image radar info to give the position of car, which is mostly used in the autonomous driving, that is self-driving, is the mixture of different neural network like CNN and many others, and which they are just made a hybrid of the CNN and RNN. So the positioning of the car that is given by the output is a hybrid of many neural networks. Next, why do we need neural network? So in the last and the second last seminars, we have learned about classification and linear regression, and yeah, they are sufficient to get the value. But why do we need another algorithm to get like neural network? Let's suppose take an example. This is the output that is given by two features. For taking the such as this one, to get a more accurate output value, to get the output to find the predict value probability that at this place a cross will occur, or at this place we get a cross or a circle. We don't know. But since we are having just two features, we can apply nonlinear function and get the value output value like theta in terms of theta 1 x1 x2 or x1 square x2 square. For many up to many degree of terms we can get it. But in the real life situation, we don't have just two features or some simple 10 to 15 datas. In a real life, what we have is that we have hundreds and hundreds of features, and all these features contains thousands of data within them. For example, for buying a home, different features the the things that we look at to get the value, a specified minimum value like size of the plot, number of rooms, postal code, distance from the mall, school availability, and many more features that we check. And for all these, if there are even 10 to 15 features which contains hundreds of data, then we can have 1500 data. And for processing all those things, it will be quite, you can say, non-realistic using linear regression or classification. Another example, for recognizing a face, features such as complexion, shape, the color of the people, shape of the face, nose construction, size of the eyebrow, distance, and many more features can be there, which we can select for distinguishing one face of one person to different person. And all of these contains thousands and thousands of data within them. So we can't use just the linear regression or the classification model to decide which face belongs to which person, or is there any difference between these two pictures. So we use neural network for that. Another factor of the neural network is vectorization. A single an activation layer can be written in the form of theta 1 into x1 plus theta 2 into x2 plus theta 3 into x3, where theta are the weight of the parameter and x is the parameter feature. So which we can write in the matrix form as the theta transpose in theta 1 into theta 2 into plus theta 3 up to theta n, where n can be 1000 or 100. That depends on the number of features that we have taken, and x1 x2 the number of features. So but the parameter x1 x2 x3 itself contains thousands of data in the set. Using a for loop, explicit for loop for each parameter and for each data set to obtain the activation function can make the computer too slow and laggy. And for a real life problem, we don't want to spend much of the time. To avoid this, vectorization was introduced. A vectorized implementation is what we are doing here for theta 1, theta 2, theta 3 transpose for a multiplication, multiplying it by x1, x2, x3. Instead of that, we can directly compute theta transpose into x. In Python, the command which we used is that a is equals to np dot theta into x. It will directly compute the theta transpose x, and we can also add b just like np dot sum of b. We can just find it much faster. To show this, I will like to show you one example. So I will be sharing my Jupyter notebook. Okay, so I will be writing one uh, simple code for getting the output. What is the difference between using explicit loop or vectorized form? So first we will import. So import time is another library used in the Python which is used to give the time in seconds from the starting of the computer. That is when you have started this computer first, from that time up to today's time, they will try to give the time in terms of second. Next we will be defining one array for getting some values in it, and we will be using random.rand, which just gives the random value from 0 to in between 0 to 1. We are giving 1 million data for this because in the real life problem for the neural network we have many data set. That's why we are using high value of data. Okay, so now we will just define the time, get the time, the present time. um, it is just showing difference. Okay, then we will be taking one more. Okay, I'm taking one more variable just to store the time, and then I will be performing the vector multiplication, that and be. What this function does is that it just multiplies every value of A transpose with B, and then y is equals to. So this will print the value of the millisecond that is taken by this function np dot function to generate output. Now we see for what amount of time the explicit loop takes for the same function. For this, we will just declare one new variable as sum is equals to 0. We are initializing the sum, and then another variable as xy, then z is equals to time. We are taking the same value of data from here, copying it to get the value for I in range. Then we are multiplying it sum is equals to sum plus, okay, a of I star b of I. Okay, so what this will does is that just sum all the multiplication terms, that is ai into bi, and then sum it on a single variable. Then we will just take the value y is equals to time dot time. Okay, and then print it. Same thing we are doing. W minus z. For I, okay. So you can see the amount of time that has been taken by using vectorization function and by using explicit loop for the same function. And if we are thinking that whether we get the same output for both of these or not, then we can check it ourselves. Like we can print mul, and here we can print sum. We can see that from here we can see that the amount of time taken by the vectorization function is 2.9 millisecond, and the value is something approx to 249,955 point something something. And for the same value, same thing, the explicit loop function takes about 449 seconds. That is about 200 times much slower than the vectorization function, giving the same output. That's why it is better to use vectorization in place of using explicit loop. Okay, now we will be going back to our presentation. Okay, so different notations that we use in vectorizing data are like this: the x for x1, x2, x3 up to xn. We use directly x for featuring the vector data, that is input vector. For the output, we just use the y. For activation layer, that was a1, a2, a3, a4. In place of that, we can directly use a and gradient function. For the gradient function, directly we can use d. Okay, so this is the comparison between the explicit loop, using explicit loop and vectorized loop for the amount of data versus time taken. For a three input layer with 3 hidden nodes, the time taken is approximately the same, but it changes exponentially when we are having 15 input features with 15 hidden layers. The time taken is too different from the one that the time is taken by the vectorization function. And they just, the for loop becomes too slow for using it for a large amount of data. Neural network representation. For a neural network, for the input with all the input features are connected to each of the activation layer unit, and they are all connected together. And when they are connected, the data that are represented is something like this, the shown in the PPT. Like a1 is written as the activation function multiplied with the theta one, the weight for the biasing one in multiplied with the biasing feature factor, plus summation with the weight, uh, weight multiplication of biasing and its summation of the weight and its feature. In this way, the a1, a2, a3, that is the unit 1, activation unit 2, and activation unit 3 are calculated, and which are then calculated to give the output of the features. Here, h theta of x, that is the output, is calculated as the function activated function of the theta 2, that is for the weightage the weight for activation layer 1 for the output one. For the theta 1 2 for the theta 1 2 theta 1 3, similarly they are calculated to get the output, where aij is the activation of ith unit in the j layer, and theta are the weight controlling the function. Okay, so neural network learns the process called backpropagation to get the most accurate result. What backpropagation, how you it use it, that it trains just use a training data that match the known, that have the known output to get the desired output. First, inputs are plugged into the network, and then output is determined. Since we are using it for the training data, we also have the actual predicted value, and what we have predicted is both we are having. So what we does is we calculate the cost of the function, that is the loss, that is the error between the predicted output and the actual output. How we do is that we just subtract the actual output, subtracting the predicted output, and then we just use it as the gradient function to multiply it with the weight to get a value that must be subtracted from the weight that we have applied in the initial to get the most accurate output. Finally, adjustments are made in order to reduce the errors. So what it does, we can see through one more code from on the MATLAB. Sorry, Python. Where has it gone? Yeah. So we will be going to code another small program to see what happens and in the back propagation and the for back propagation. So we will be writing one code mpy numpy as mp plp from SQL. We are using here MakeMoon. MakeMoon is a predefined dataset in the scikit-learn library, which is used to make two interleaving half moons. So np dot random rnd. So what random.sit does is that it produces random value from random values from 0 to 1000, and the what number of the data we have to take, we will be specifying it in the next line. Data So what it does, it will give the value of data and the labels. Data will be in the form of the number of data we are having and separated, comma separated by the number of features that we are taking, and the labels will be the number of data that we are taking. So what we are doing in this line is that we are just using the matplot library color to get different colors that we want to for each data. For here we haven't specified anything. That means for all the values of the data we have to use these two colors. Then mm, is there is showing some errors. Okay, I got it. So data dot labels make moons. Yeah, right. Data dot labels. Okay, so what is the problem? Make moons and sample is 200, right? It is right. Then so there it is showing some errors. Okay, and sample. So the samples. Okay. Yeah. So what is happening in this, that we are taking a value of 200 data that we are taking, and we are just taking a noise of 0.1. That is, we can change it, as always. The noise what is doing here, that is just creating a different randomness in the value of that has been predicted. So if we will change here as 0.04 or 0.05, then it will change the shape that is this person of its value. So to understand this, what is happening inside this, we will check what happening, that we are taking just two samples, two features we are taking for, and we are just providing with the 200 samples. So it is just passing to the next activation layer to get the value, to generate output, to generate value, and which are then given as forward, and they are again forward propagated to get the value in the output. So what is happening, how it is happening, is that we are just taking a random value for weight, and then we are giving it to the for the next activation layer. Then we are just giving it for to get the output. But since we already from the make moons, we already know that we have to specify a type of shape that is two interleaving half moons. So they already have the output in it. To then they just what they do is just that they find the loss that has been taken because of the give taken the random sample, and then what they do is that they just change the value. How they do it, let's see from this one, the raw code. From the previous one we saw that we have directly used the make moons, but how they are doing is from we can see from this code. So what is doing that they have taken using the 200 samples, they are taking it as the data value length, and then they are taking the input dimensionality, output dimension, what are the then what they do is first they calculate the loss from the data set. That is, they just first take an arbitrary value of weight, that is w1 and b1, w2 and b2, and what they do is that they just calculate the output. What they get the output, they just subtract it from the actual output to calculate the loss. What after taking the loss, what they do is that they try to predict they to minimize that loss. How they do is that they just take the gradient of the loss, that is to get the minimum value, then the gradient will be the least one. And what they do that when they get the least value of the gradient loss, they just multiply it with the learning rate and with the weight of the parameter, and then they update that parameter with w1 is equals to w1 minus the learning rate into the w dw1, that is the gradient descent of the parameter weight. They just do till that point when we get the maximum maximum what we can say that the maximum if accuracy of the value. Okay, so next now we will see some examples for the neural network. Before seeing that, let's see what activation function is. Activation functions such as these are the sigmoid function or tanh function. They are generally used to give the output in between 0 to 1. Why these are happening? Because we want the to get the probability. That is, we have to see if the value is correct, then close to the output, then give the value as 1, or if it is not the correct output, then give as 0. So for this we use sigmoid function and tanh function. Sigmoid function is what we can say as 1 divided by 1 plus e to the power minus z. For very high value of z, that is the linear part that is inside this activation function, we can get the value approximately to 1 when we are having a higher value of higher positive value. And for higher lower negative value, we can get it approximately towards the minus 0 part. But we also use tanh function. As you can see the here, if you calculate the deviation for this one, you can just get it, we can get it up about positive value. For the deviation, we can just take a value, we will get a deviation in this range. But for using tanh, we can get the deviation across zero mean. But here we get approximation the deviation about the positive side of the mean. So generally tanh function is used. So again, now we will be seeing some examples. Some examples like XNOR Gate. Most of you, those who have completed their DLD subject in college, must have seen that read about XNOR Gate. What XNOR Gate is that when there if there is either any of the input have 1 and other have 0, they just give the output as 0. Or if both the input or output are high or low, they just provide it with the 1. So let's generate this value using neural network. How we do is something like this. We just take two two input value like the x and the y input, and then we just go for the first activation layer and then for the output. What we do is here is that we just provide it with a base biasing one. Here in this case, I have used one. You can check it with the zero or with the zero. If you are getting the correct answer, then it will be good. Otherwise, you can use one. So I'm giving an arbitrary value for each parameter like minus 30, 20, or 20. So what this will do is that A1 will be given by the sigma, that is the activation function, multiplied with the biasing value into its weight, plus biasing value of x1 into its weight, plus biasing value of plus input weightage value of the x2 with the parameter. So what happens that when we have uh, for A1, that is the first input, that is for the first in activation unit, what value we will get is something like plus 20 multiplied with the x1 parameter plus 20 multiplied with the x2 parameter. So we will be getting this value for the A1 unit. If we calculate how what value it will give is will be for the x0, we have given the value as +1. So for all the cases, we will be giving it as the +1 value. +1 value. Yes, Priyanshu Trivedi has raised a hand. Yeah, write in the chat box. Yeah, you can write in the chat section, Priyanshu Trivedi. So, no, is there any problem or any confusion with anyone? You can write in the chat box. Someone has raised the hand. Please write it in the chat section. Okay, so there is no problem. Okay, so we have given an arbitrary function value, weightage value. You can give anything, but for while we are doing it theoretically, we have given this random value. But while coding it, you have to give any random value in the starting, and then you have to check for the error that we are getting, and then we have to subtract that error in order to get the maximum accurate value output. So for this, for A1 part, we have given x0 as value +1. For the first unit, that is x1, we have given as 0 and x2 as 0. Then the second part, that is x1 20 cross multiplied with the x1 will be 0, and the 20 multiplied with the x2 will also be 0. So this part will be 0 for the first case. For the first case, that is A1 will be 0. For the second one, that is A2, we have given with the biasing weight as 10, the x1 weight as minus 20, biasing weight as minus 20, and the okay. So biasing weight as +10, the weightage value for the x1 parameter as -20, and the weightage for the x2 factor as -20. So what it happens that since the x0 is 1, x0 biasing weight is given as 0, and the x1 is given as 0, so this value will be 0, and x2 is also given as 1, but x2 is given as 1. Okay, so 10 multiplied into 1 will be the value as 10, and the minus 20 into 1 as -20. So the overall value will be is equals to minus 10. So if we check the graph, from the graph, if we check the value of -10, it will be coming approximately to 0. So the value of A2 will A2 for the second case is given as 0. Similarly, for all the cases, that is for x1 both to be 1 and 0 or 1 1, we get the value as of A1 as 0 and A2 as 0. For the last case, that is x1 equals to 1 and x2 is equals to 1, for both the cases, we will get the value of a1 as 1, like minus 30. The value of this biasing weight will be minus 30, and then for the value of the x1 and x2 combinedly will be plus 40. Plus 40. So if we check the value, the final value will be about equals to plus 10. So if we check the value of 10 in the sigmoid function, we will get approximately equals to 1. So that's why for a1 it has been given as 1, and for a2 for both the negative part will sum up to give the negative result only. That's why it came about 0. Now for the final, that is the from activation layer to the output value, we have given the weight for the biasing factor as minus 10, the weightage for the A1 feature as 20, and for the A2 as 20. So what if we check for the AZ for the final part is that minus 10 is multiplied with the biasing value plus 20 for the first activation layer unit, and the plus 20 for the second activation unit. If we check for all the cases, that is for 0 and 1, 0, 0, for both the zeros, if we keep both the value as 0, what output will be is sigmoid function of minus 10, that is 0. So that's why these two have came as 0. For any of the activation unit to be 1, we can see that even if any one of the value of the activation unit gets to 1, the final value is positive with value as 10. So the final output will be sigmoid of positive number with a value of 10, and when we will check it, we will get about the value as 1. So these two values have been given as 1, which is approximately equal, but someone has written okay. So in this way the value for the XNOR gate has been calculated. Similarly, for the OR gate, that is for the direct input to the output, which is a example of perceptron is used. We can directly find the weight as if we just calculate the sigmoid function, can try to form a sigmoid function. We will just get the sigmoid of minus 10 into 1 minus 10 into x of 0, that is the plus 1 plus 20 multiplied with the x1 and summed with the 20 multiplied with the x2 factor. So what it will happen that even when both of the x1 and x2 features are 0, there will be only a negative term which will give us as the value as minus 0, approximately equals to 0. Or even if there is any term that is x1 or x2 as 1, overall the weightage inside the sigmoid function will be positive with a difference of 10. So it will give us the value as positive plus 1. So in this way, the value are calculated like for if both the inputs are 0, we will get a value of 0, approximately equals to 0 for any of the input to be 1, that is either 0 1 or 1 1, we get the value of 1. And since both are 1, which means that the plus 20 and minus 10, that is plus sigmoid inside sigmoid, it will be a value of about positive 30. Positive 30 we will get, which easily just calculate. Sorry. Yeah. So we will get the positive value of about 30, which can be easily calculated to get a higher approximation value towards 1. So for both the input, we get the value as 1. Similarly, for the last example, for the AND gate, we know that for AND gate, even if any of the input is 0, we get the output as 0. And only for a single case, that is for both the x1 and x2 to be high, and then only we get the value as output as the 1. So we have applied a random weight of minus 15 to the biasing fact value, minus plus positive 10 for the x1 and positive 10 for the x2 value. So what happens here? What happens here is that for generating a sigmoid function to generate the output, we just make the linear function summed with the weightage into its parameter value. So what happens that for if any one of the value of x1 or x2 is 0, then the overall value inside the sigmoid function will be negative. So and negative value, even if the minus 5 value just gives the value approximately equals to 0. That's why the output that we got is 0. Approximately the value that we got is 0 for both the cases. If both are 0, then there will be a sigmoid function of negative 15. That is easily we can say that it is a 0. For a single one also, the value inside the sigmoid function will be minus 5, which will give the value approximately equals to 0 for both the cases. For both, if both the parameters are high, that is the value is given as plus 1, the term inside the sigmoid function will become positive with plus 5, and which will give the value as 1. But here in all these three examples we have randomly chosen the weight. We, for theoretical purpose, it was okay, it's okay, we have chosen a simple weightage example and then applied it to get the output. But while we are coding this, we just take, initially we take it randomly, we take the code weight as random, and then we just try to get the output. After getting the output, we just try to check it with the actual output that has been given predefined in the training set. From there we just try to calculate the loss that has been made due to the taking the weight of those values, and then we just try to subtract the values using the gradient descent function. We just multiply it with the learning rate and subtract it with from the original that we have given the weight. And in this, it is applied multiple times in order to get the accuracy the maximum, and the change in the gradient descent, that is the loss function, to be minimum. In this way we just try to get the most accurate value in neural network. So this was all in this webinar. Hope you understand all those things, everything. And if anyone is having any doubt, they can ask. You can use chat section to ask your doubts. Anyone having any doubts? Okay. So I will be giving you the feedback form to fill the forms. Please fill it. Please fill it. And if anyone is having any doubt, you can ask me. Okay. So no one is having any doubt. Okay. So no one is having any doubt then. So okay, no one is having any doubt. Then okay, so we'll be closing this webinar. If no one is having any doubt, kindly fill this feedback form before leaving.